My husband and I are selling our house. We needed to move our cats to our new place and our deep freezer, all of which were at our old house. I told my husband ahead of time that I didn't think I would be able to help with the freezer. I had back surgery 7 years ago. I'm not just lazy. He still decided that it would be easy, and we would be doing it. Fast forward to us on the basement stairs. Me, 16-year-old, 5'7" 130-pound woman with barely any body strength. Him, 6'3" 220-pound man who can lift insane amounts. I'm holding the handle of this two-wheeled cart, trying to lift this deep freeze and stop it from tipping down as he lifted and tipped up from the bottom. The stairs are so shallow that each time I lifted it and moved up, I would have nowhere for my feet to go, and my butt would hit the next step up. This was incredibly challenging, but I just kept going. When we got to the landing, there was nowhere else my body could go. So we got stuck. This is when he started making faces and comments under his breath, acting as if I'm stupid, not seeing anything from my point. So I was a little snippy, saying that I was trying my hardest, and I tried to tell him that I wasn't going to be the best help. He proceeds to tell me to control myself and quiet down, which makes me more upset. I'm not a woman who nitpicks every little thing. I'm much more understanding than I probably should be. I'm also not stupid. My dad was physically and mentally hurtful my entire life. I see an amazing therapist 2 times a week and am diagnosed with CPTSD, depression, anxiety, etc. These things have been happening on and off for years. My husband was recently diagnosed with autism, which is not an excuse for any hurtful behavior. I'm just putting this in here because without any backstory, this may be a bit out of context. Back to the deep freeze. He continues to escalate his mean nature with me and says that I should get out of the way and that he can do it himself. So I back off. 2 times he was struggling and I offered to help him, and he was mean to me, so I backed off and lashed out. I walked into our house and let out a frustrated sigh. He comes in and starts telling me how I'm out of control and I'm worthless. I'm yelling over him because it's been 7 years of this, and hearing the abuse has been ending the life of me. He laughs evilly and says a bunch of terrible things. I walk out and walk down to the lake and sit on a bench for an hour. I turned off my phone, but when I turned it back on, he had texted me once, asking me to come back. When I came back, he had gotten the freezer outside himself. He asked, "Are you going to help load this freezer in the truck?" I told him no. I got in the truck and waited. He said, "I'm going to let our boy cat out free and get my cats in the kennels to transport." I ignored him, but he somehow got the freezer in the truck himself. And one by one, he brought the other 3 cats out to the truck and carriers. I watch him walk down by our shed and start yelling our boy cat's name. I immediately start bawling and freaking out because this house is on a very busy street. My husband comes walking back up, still searching, and then he gets into the truck. I ask him if he really let the cat outside. At this point, I'm screaming bloody unalive. He's just looking at me with this almost but not quite smirk on his face. He doesn't say anything at all for a bit, and then he says, "No." I yell, and they say, "Go get him." And again, I am freaking out at this point. I have an iced coffee in my hand. He laughs at me and tells me to go get him myself and throws the keys at me. I squeezed my drink when he was laughing, and I was reaching for our vape. He laughed harder and said, "I'll just get my secret one." And I squeezed harder. The cup cracked and the drink was pouring down my hand, and he laughed harder and told me I was evil and crazy. So I threw the coffee at him. Things like this, up until the coffee part, have been happening for a while. I have a plan with my therapist. His parents know what's been going on, which I did not want to have to get involved. But after watching my husband go, "Woo, look at me," I'm messing with the trigger, while pointing a loaded rifle at his chin with the safety off, while standing at the end of our bed, I had to inform them. He got his autism diagnosis shortly after this. I bring that up because I told his mom what was happening immediately. That is part of what set him off. After I threw the coffee, I went inside with the house keys and locked the door. I ran up to our old bedroom and I just cried. He came in and pounded on the door. I didn't move. He left and went to our new house, which we are sharing with his parents. Imagine 2 condos type situation. His parents come and pick me and our boy cat up and take us to our new place. When we arrive, he's just sitting in the truck. He hasn't unloaded, he hasn't cleaned himself up. I told his parents that I would clean the truck immediately and that it was completely wrong of me to throw the coffee at him. His mom was boiling at him. When he came in, he said, "I don't want you in the bedroom. You can sleep on the couch." I said okay and went to the bathroom. When I came out, the blanket and my pillows were on the couch. The night went on, I cleaned the truck. His mom came downstairs and sat with me for several hours. When his mom went upstairs, he got onto video games and played with his friend until 3:30 a.m. While I was bawling and feeling like my life is over, just wanting to die. He goes to sleep, I go to sleep. The next day comes and he sleeps until 3:30 p.m. He comes out of the bedroom and walks by, ignoring me. He goes to the bathroom and then goes back to the room. Says nothing. All of this to say, is my marriage over? I'll give more info for anything that needs clarified. Thank you in advance. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your understanding nature is why you're with a man who wants to be able to treat you like garbage. It's not a coincidence. At some point early in the relationship, he tested you and found out that you would accept his nonsense instead of telling him to go away. And accepting his nonsense is what he wanted in a partner. Comment 2. Your marriage sure as hell should be over. Do you really want to spend the rest of your life with someone who takes pleasure in harassing you? Come on, clearly even his mom can see what a jerk he is. Get your cat, pack a bag, and get out. He's not going to change for you, hun. Now, for the update, thanks for all the comments from last time. Things have only gotten worse since then. After the freezer incident, we managed to settle into an uneasy routine at the new place, but the tension was like a thick fog you could cut with a knife. My husband barely spoke to me, and when he did, it was with a coldness that made me shiver. I tried to keep busy, focusing on unpacking and setting up our new home, but the silence between us was deafening. One day, I was sorting through some old boxes in the basement when I stumbled upon a stack of letters. They were from my husband's ex-girlfriend. I knew I shouldn't, but curiosity got the better of me, and I started reading. The letters were full of love and promises, a stark contrast to the emptiness of my current marriage. I felt a pang of jealousy and betrayal, even though they were from before we met. I hid the letters back where I found them, but the seed of doubt had been planted. A few weeks later, my husband announced that he was going to start a new job. He'd been out of work for a while, and this was supposed to be a fresh start for us, but the job required him to travel frequently, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was using it as an excuse to get away from me. The night before his first trip, we had a huge fight. It started over something small, but it quickly escalated. He accused me of being controlling and paranoid, and I shot back that he was selfish and inconsiderate. In the heat of the moment, I blurted out that I knew about the letters from his ex. His face turned to stone, and he left without another word. He was gone for 2 weeks. During that time, I was a mess. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept going over that last fight in my head, wondering if I had pushed him too far. When he finally came back, he was different, distant. He spent all his time locked in his office, barely acknowledging me. Then came the day that changed everything. I was cleaning the kitchen when I heard a crash from upstairs. I ran up to find my husband on the floor, clutching his chest. He was having a heart attack. I called 911 and tried to do CPR, but I was panicking, and I couldn't remember the steps properly. By the time the ambulance arrived, it was too late. He was gone. The guilt was overwhelming. If I hadn't been so caught up in my own feelings, if I had paid more attention, maybe I could have saved him. His parents were devastated, and I couldn't help but feel responsible for their loss too. They were kind to me, but I could see the questions in their eyes. Why didn't I know what to do? Why wasn't I able to help their son? The funeral was a blur. I sat in the back, feeling like an outsider. Afterward, his ex-girlfriend approached me. She was tearful, saying how sorry she was. I wanted to hate her, but all I could feel was a hollow emptiness. She told me that my husband had reached out to her before he died, that he was confused and needed someone to talk to. I felt a surge of anger, but it quickly faded to resignation. What did it matter now? I moved back to our old house, the one we were trying to sell. It was empty, a shell of the life we once had. I couldn't bear to stay in the new place, with all its memories and unspoken words. I let the cats roam the house, their presence a small comfort in the vast silence. So here I am, alone with my thoughts and regrets. I keep replaying that last day, wondering if there was something I missed, some sign that could have warned me. But in the end, it doesn't change the fact that he's gone, and I'm here, living with the consequences of my mistakes. Thanks for reading. My ex-wife enrolls our kids in a fancy school without my consent. So I take her to court and teach her a lesson about co-parenting. My ex-wife, kids, and I live in a conservative part of the country, and were quite religious prior to getting divorced 4 years ago. The main reason for our divorce is that she took issue with my very occasional use of intimacy videos. I would use it once about every 2 to 3 months on average. I did not hide this from her, and was largely honest with her about this during our entire marriage. This made her quite upset. I wanted to stop completely, but never found it in me to do so. I felt so much judgment and shame from her that deep down, I don't think my heart was really willing to give her that gift. She became increasingly dominating and controlling. We were separated on and off for 2 years while we bounced between therapists, eventually getting divorced. Shortly after our divorce, she began dating a guy who lives 3 hours away. 9 months after that, she informed me she would be relocating with the children to be closer to him. I told her I would not support that, and a custody battle and custody evaluation ensued. During the evaluation process, she characterized me as narcissistic, selfish, hurtful, uninterested in the children, etc. I know she didn't have any real evidence to support that, as I am not those things, and I suspect our kids probably backed me up as being a decent man who loves and is involved with his kids. But I wasn't privy to those interviews. Ultimately, the evaluator didn't buy it. My ex lost and was denied the opportunity to relocate. I was given additional time with the kids, which I didn't even ask for, bringing the custody split to 50-50ths. She was beside herself. She was unable to speak or attempt any type of negotiation with me at that time. Trying to be the humble victor, I asked my family to be understanding and supportive of her. My sister-in-law, brother's wife, texted her to give her some support. This is when she made heinous claims about me to my sister-in-law over text. She claimed that I had raped her, cheated on her. She claims God told her this one. Made pedophilic comments about our daughter. This was untrue and extremely hurtful. I texted her immediately, calling her out for the lies and expressing my disappointment. This was a little over a year ago. This is the most hurt and betrayed I have ever felt in my life. She won't admit or apologize. I am no longer religious, but I still consider myself to be a Christian. I want to forgive her and move forward, but I don't know how. I still have to deal with this woman. She is the mother of my kids. I also want to have a good co-parenting relationship. I have been quite peaceful with her most of the time, and when I haven't, I've been mostly measured and controlled. To this day, I sometimes catch myself daydreaming from time to time, imagining bad things happening to her. I've never honestly considered doing anything to hurt her, but I've caught myself imagining it. This was very scary for me. I don't want anything to do with anything like that. This morning, I had the thought to change her name in my contacts to Liar. I wouldn't do that, but these thoughts happen. I want to find forgiveness for her. I also want to show up fully authentically. I don't want to ruin the goodwill that we do have. We are both very accommodating to scheduling adjustments, for example, and she mostly leaves me alone. I also don't want my kids to have to deal with any more parent drama. They have been through enough. How do I handle this? How do I find forgiveness and peace while being fully honest and authentic? She did a really sickening and disgusting thing and shows no remorse. Maybe someone who has been through something similar can offer some advice. Thanks. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Holy crap, dude. This is not stuff to be taken lightly. I hope you documented her false accusations with your lawyer. This is not just a forgive and forget sort of thing. What she tried to pull is completely unforgivable and places your relationship with your kids and potentially your actual freedom outside of a jail cell in jeopardy. Are you just going to wait for this to get into parental alienation territory? For frick's sake, man. You now know the extent she will go to in order to destroy you. This is cut and dry. If you even remotely enjoy being an actual father to your children, you need to be fighting for primary custody with her only allowed supervised visits. And you needed to get that ball rolling yesterday. Comment 2. Here's the thing. You don't actually need to forgive her. You just need to let it go so the anger doesn't control your life. For some people, that means the same thing. But for others, forgiveness means coming to a place where you can think what she did was okay. It wasn't. If she's accusing you of making intimacy comments about your daughter, your custody is in jeopardy. Move to communicating only in writing. Consult a lawyer to see if you are taking the right steps so you can have evidence if she claims this in court one day. You don't have to be her friend. You just have to be reliable about scheduling as you communicate through the app. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around. So, here's what went down this week. Just when I thought things couldn't get any messier, they did. My ex, out of nowhere, decided to pull a stunt that could have turned our already fragile co-parenting situation into a full-blown war. She went behind my back and enrolled the kids in a private school near her place without even a whisper to me. The school was not just any school, but one that was known for its strict religious teachings, the kind we used to follow before everything fell apart. She knew this would get under my skin, not just because of the religion aspect, but because it was a power move, a way to assert control and sideline me. I found out when the kids casually mentioned their new uniforms. My blood boiled. It was a slap in the face, a clear message that she didn't see me as an equal in parenting. I felt walked over again. But this time, I couldn't let it slide. I had to act for the kids' sake and for my own dignity. I called her, trying to keep my cool, asking why she'd make such a significant decision without involving me. Her response was cold, calculated. She said it was for the best and that I wouldn't understand. She hung up, leaving me fuming and helpless, but I wasn't going to let her have the last word. I contacted a lawyer, ready to fight back. It was risky, I knew that. It could mean dragging the kids through another battle, something I swore I'd never do. But what choice did I have? I couldn't let her bulldoze me, not again. The lawyer was a straight shooter, told me we had a case, but it wouldn't be pretty. I hesitated, thinking of the kids, but I couldn't back down. We filed a motion to block the school change until we could reach an agreement. Then, as if the universe was playing some cruel joke, my brother called. He was in trouble. Big trouble. He'd been caught embezzling funds from his company. My family was in chaos. Everyone scrambling to figure out what to do. My sister-in-law was a wreck. And guess who she turned to for support? My ex. I couldn't believe it. My own family crisis was now tangled up with my ex, the one person I wanted to keep at arm's length. She offered to help my brother, said she had connections that could make the problem go away. It was a move that reeked of manipulation, a way to get back into my family's good graces, and, by extension, mine. I was torn. On one hand, my brother needed help, and if my ex could provide that, shouldn't I be grateful? On the other hand, it felt like a trap, a way for her to gain leverage over me. I was stuck in a tough situation, and it seemed like no matter what I chose, I'd lose something. The aftermath was a mess. My family was divided, some siding with my brother, others outraged by his actions. My ex was in the middle of it, playing the savior, and there I was, trying to fight for my rights as a father while my family was falling apart. But then, something unexpected happened. My daughter, bless her heart, came to me one night, tears in her eyes. She said she didn't want to change schools, that she wanted things to stay as they were. She didn't want to be a pawn in her mother's game. It was a moment of clarity in the midst of chaos. Armed with my daughter's words, I went back to my ex. I told her what our daughter had said, how this wasn't just about us, but about what the kids wanted too. To my surprise, she listened. Maybe it was the sincerity in my voice, or maybe she saw the sense in it. but she agreed to reconsider the school decision. We're still in limbo, the legal motion hanging over our heads, but there's a glimmer of hope. My brother's situation is still a mess, but at least my ex isn't using it against me. Not yet, anyway. So that's where I'm at, fighting battles on all fronts, trying to keep my head above water. It's not easy, but I'm doing what I have to do. Thanks for reading. My girlfriend chose a concert over my mother's funeral. So I exposed her lies and kicked her to the curb. I've 33 years old, been with my long-distance relationship girlfriend, 30 years old for about 4 years. Last year, we were supposed to move and close the distance, but shortly before, my mom, 65 years old, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I spent the last year caring for my mom with my siblings, and she passed away about 2 weeks ago. My girlfriend is a teacher and has a week off of work coming up, and she had been planning to travel and stay with me. She was upset when she learned of the date of the funeral, as it was the day after a concert she wanted to attend together in her town. I invited her to be at the funeral and spend about 5 days with me. She refused, saying she needs to be at the concert. It's her favorite artist. I really like them too, but I understand I can see this artist again. My mom will only have one funeral. Music is important to both of us. I met her at one of these events. We talked about this in person when I visited her last weekend, and she was worried it seemed like she just wanted to have fun instead of attending a funeral. She said she's been having a hard time personally and needed this release. I'm trying to understand as if our positions were flipped. I would do everything possible to be there for her if she asked. I tried to discuss this, but was met with, "I'm going to the concert." Seemed to be her mantra, and I gave up. I only want her there if she wants to be anyway. Given that my mom declined so quickly, I took 2 weeks off from work. One to care for her and ease her passing at hospice, and one to grieve and take care of logistics afterwards. I cannot take another full week off so soon. I've suggested that my girlfriend visit for a few days the weekend after the funeral. I may be able to take 1 or 2 days off. My girlfriend continued to look at plane tickets for the full week, getting upset when I said she could come for that time, but that I would have to work on some days. She said it wasn't worth it to her to buy a plane ticket if she was only here for a few days or if I was busy working. I'm hurting over my mom's death from cancer, which was traumatic to witness. My girlfriend refusing to come to the funeral so she can attend a concert, and then making a scene over me not being available at the best time for her to visit. If she would come for the funeral, she'd be able to spend 5 days with me easily, since it includes the weekend. She wants time to relax at home after traveling, and wants to leave before the next weekend starts. Even though I explained previously that would not be possible for me. This whole thing has made me question who she is, and if I should continue this. I feel overwhelmed trying to plan a funeral with my feelings, and managing hers at the same time. She seems resentful this has happened now, and I feel alone in managing it. This whole thing seems centered around her needs. Last night she got very upset when I said I needed another day to figure things out with my family. Her saying that our lives weren't compatible anymore. This hurt my feelings, and I told her that was a broad statement to make over a temporary situation for me, and she said I took her words too literally and started crying. I'm in such a weird place emotionally right now that I don't know what to do. Is her refusal to attend the funeral with me as bad as it seems? Should I keep trying to find a compromise so she can visit for a while afterward? I feel overwhelmed dealing with so much at once. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I don't usually participate in these discussions, but here is something to think about. When my dad passed away, it was many years coming as his health was in a long decline, but it was sudden and unexpected in the moment. I was shocked and devastated. The person I was dating at the time, maybe approximately 2 years together at this point, picked me up from the hospital after I gave him one last hug. He was vegetative at this point. My boyfriend turns and says to me in the car, "Wow, you're really ugly crying." I can't even remember what I said or did as the grief made all my memories cloudy that day. But I always remembered it cut so deep that I could never get over it. The lack of empathy was astonishing. We broke up a few months later once I was out of the cloud, and my only regret was not breaking up in that car. I was the saddest I had ever been, and the one person who should have been the warmest and kindest was the cruelest and most confusing. Shedding the weight and trauma of someone not caring about you and taking care of yourself is a wonderfully liberating feeling. About a year later, I found the love of my life, an empathetic, kind, and compassionate human. All the best to you and sorry for your loss. Comment 2. If you had just started dating, maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal if she didn't go to your mom's funeral. But considering that you've been together for 4 years, it's kind of ridiculous that she cares more about the concert than being there to support you. My husband is a musician and we go to a lot of concerts. We have traveled out of state and out of the country once for concerts. But there's no concert artist in existence that he or I wouldn't skip if one of us lost a family member. She is showing you her true priorities, and sadly you rank below whatever concert she's going to. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for the update. So, after all that mess with the funeral and the concert, things just spiraled. My girlfriend, let's call her Miss Concert, decided to double down on her stance. She went to the concert, posted all over social media about how amazing it was, while I was at home sorting through my mom's things, trying to figure out what to keep. It felt like a slap in the face. Then, out of nowhere, my brother found some old letters while we were cleaning out the attic. Turns out, my mom had a bit of a secret. She'd been writing to this guy for years, someone she knew before she met my dad. They were just friends, she said in the letters. But the way she wrote about him, it was clear she had feelings. My dad never knew. It was like a bomb had gone off in the middle of our grief. I didn't know what to do with that information. It made me think about my own relationship. Was I being blind to things with Miss Concert? Was she showing me who she really was this whole time, and I just didn't want to see it? While I was dealing with all this, Miss Concert calls me crying, saying she made a huge mistake. She said the concert wasn't worth it and that she missed me. She wanted to come over right away, take the next flight out, but I was still raw from everything, and I told her I needed space to think. She didn't take that well. She booked a flight anyway, showed up at my door unannounced. I was shocked, to say the least. We had a huge fight. She said she was trying to fix things, but I couldn't get past it. I told her she chose a concert over my mom's funeral, over supporting me when I needed her most. It was too late for sorry now. The neighbors must have heard because the next thing I know, there's a knock on the door. It's them, asking if everything's okay. Miss Concert is still yelling, and I'm trying to calm her down, explain to the neighbors that it's just a bad time. They left, but the embarrassment stuck with me. After she left, I thought that was it. But no, she had to go and make a scene at her school. She told her colleagues that I was unsupportive, that I didn't understand her needs. Word got back to me through a mutual friend. I couldn't believe it. She was twisting the story, making me out to be the bad guy after everything that happened. I was done. I called her and ended things right then and there. It was a tough call, but I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I realized I didn't need that kind of drama in my life, especially not now. So I'm single now, dealing with my mom's secret past and trying to move forward. It's not easy, but I'm managing. I've learned a lot about what I need in a partner and what I won't put up with. It's a hard lesson, but I guess it's better late than never. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.